Hi, so I'm just recording this AI interview for highlighting the skills on CI/CD, and yeah, let's get started.
Absolutely, Arjun. Let's dive in. To start, can you share your understanding of the key principles of CI/CD and why they're important in modern software development?
Sure. So, like CI/CD, this is something that I've used primarily for deploying services and also building applications as well. So, when it comes to building services, what I refer to that is deploying services such as a Spring Boot based application, or let's say any Docker container essentially that can build and deploy it on a Kubernetes cluster is part of the CI/CD pipelines that I've built. And apart from that, like when I'm talking about the apps, I've also briefly worked on using CI for actually packaging the Android applications into an APK and shipping it off for updates into a device, basically. So that's another one of the CI/CD pipeline that I built. Apart from that, I've also done a bit of automation for release management in the sense of, let's say we have multiple environments, then you can gatekeep specific environments based on approvals required by, let's say, specific person or a specific team. So you can set up approvals like that. And not just that, like I've also added load testing also in some of my pipelines in one of my past org. So the load test, the whole goal of the load test is to ensure that there's no memory leakage, or like it is an actual application that can scale out. So this just, it's just more of a sanity check before we actually send it out to production that we were doing. So yeah, that's been my experience so far.
That's a comprehensive overview, Arjun, and it's great to hear you've had hands-on experience with both service deployment and application packaging. Considering your experience, let's talk about a scenario. Suppose you're setting up a CI/CD pipeline for a microservices architecture. How would you approach ensuring that each service is independently tested and deployed without affecting other services?
Great question. So to begin with, like if it's a microservice architecture, then I would build out different pipelines for each of these components. It doesn't really matter if it's, I mean, it doesn't really matter what code base it's using, whether it's Java or Python or whatever be the case. So if let's just take the example for Python. So to make sure that there is enough coverage and enough branches are being tested and everything, we can use PyTest and check the reports based out of that. So once, like if let's say we have 10, 20, or whatever number of services that are based out of Python, or let's say in Java, I'm forgetting the unit test that we use. I think it was JUnit, but it's been a while, so I don't remember that 100%. But yeah, if let's assume that we're talking about Python microservices, then of course, like the whole first step would be to build out the container, and then I would spin up like a minikube instance, minikube, or like a kind cluster in which we can have this service go up, and whatever other dependencies are, like relevant for this one specific service, we can add that as a part of the dependencies to ensure that these dependencies also spin up with the kind cluster. uh, so once the kind cluster goes up, then the service can go up. It will have its own sort of database, have its connections initialized, have the service itself spin up, and after that we can actually do the testing as well. So first would of course be unit testing, and then this would be more of an end-to-end testing that would happen in the cluster. And once all of these checks have passed, or let's say they meet a certain threshold, after that we can end up with, like a green tick and allowing users to propagate any services to any future environments.
That's a solid approach, Arjun. You've outlined a thorough process for ensuring each microservice is tested and deployed independently with a mix of unit and end-to-end testing in a contained environment. Now, let's build on this. How do you handle scenarios where a service update might have dependencies or impacts on other services? Specifically, how do you manage integration testing and coordination across multiple services in your pipeline?
Good question. So for this, like I mentioned, the whole dependency graph would be something that we would use to ensure, like, all dependencies also get tested. So now let's say if I have package A, which is being used in package B, so package B would point to package A's, like, as a dependency basically. So if let's say B is the user for this service, then what we would end up doing is, let's say package A has a release that's coming, then we could use either webhooks or like a trigger notification to spin off a release in the uh, you know second application or service that is actually consuming this. And over there we can use the whole same approach of like a kind cluster, in which we do proper end-to-end testing to make sure that nothing is broken. And if let's say this pipeline goes and comes back with the result saying that, let's say, some function failed or some integrations failed in this, then of course, the pipeline would fail, and we can stop the pipeline from executing anything further.
That's a clear strategy for managing dependencies and ensuring integration testing across services. By triggering tests in dependent services whenever there's an update, you create a robust safety net. Now, thinking about the release process, how do you manage versioning and rollback in your CI/CD pipelines, especially when dealing with frequent updates to multiple microservices?
So, can you repeat your question? I missed out on the. So, I understood rollbacks, and I didn't understand the first part of that.
Of course, I was asking about how you manage versioning and rollback processes in your CI/CD pipelines, particularly with frequent updates to multiple microservices.
Oh,
How do you
sorry. Yeah, I got the question. Anything else that you were saying? I'm really sorry to cut you off.
No problem at all. So, building on that, how do you manage versioning and rolling back changes in your CI/CD pipelines, especially with frequent updates to multiple microservices?
Okay. So when it comes to versioning, what I mostly use for pretty much all of these services is semantic versioning. So it has a very simple strategy of major, minor, patch, release. The way this would work is, let's say we create a feature branch and then we do some sort of changes to that. Once that feature branch PR is raised to master or main, then we can end up doing the whole end-to-end testing, and any dependencies that are coming in, that those also can be tested with that. And if let's say one version has passed all of these integration tests and everything in your kind cluster, but let's say due to some issue, like let's say some sort of data that was specific to let's say the production environment, and one service update brought the whole thing down, what we would end up doing is we can trigger a Helm rollback. The way that would work is, once we do a release to the environment, we can have a check within the cluster itself, within the actual deployed environment, to see if all the services are working as expected. So this won't be something as simple as a slash health check. It should be of a more deeper health check. You can use canaries for this basically. I think canary is the right word, but I could be wrong. I'm blanking out on the keyword for that. But from what I remember, this canary would be like a deeper integration test that runs on a cron. And if let's say we have the cron running at every, let's say, 10 to 15 minutes or something like that, we would wait for this cron to pass. Only then we would consider the pipeline to be successful. Until then, we would hold the pipeline as pending or awaiting health status from this canary check. And alternatively, you can even trigger a manual canary health check as well. So that's one way we would know if, let's say, a service that has been deployed has broken and we need to do a rollback. And if, let's say, we get the trigger from one of these tests that a rollback is required, then what we would end up doing is just doing a Helm rollback, uh, considering that it's a Helm application that we're deploying, and that's how I would go about doing versioning and rollbacks.
That's a comprehensive approach, Arjun. Semantic versioning, combined with automated health checks and Helm rollbacks, provides a robust safety net for managing deployments and potential issues. Given your experience, have you encountered situations where rollbacks weren't smooth or required additional intervention? If so, how did you handle those cases?
Yeah. Okay, great question. So there have been situations where I needed to manually intervene in rollbacks, especially if there was like a race condition of, let's say, service A depends on service B and service B depends on service C. So if there's like a chain dependency that comes in, and let's say, C to B to A, and A was the service that broke something, uh, those are one of the situations where I've had to manually intervene and do rollbacks for the other services as well, to make sure that the whole platform is still functional. So this would sort of be like the responsibility of the on-call engineer. So whoever's responsible, if they see like an alert from the canary, they can go ahead and do the rollback, if, let's say, there was a failed deployment that happened.
Got it. It sounds like you've navigated some complex scenarios with a clear strategy, Arjun. Your experience with managing CI/CD pipelines and handling rollbacks in complex microservices environments is evident. Thank you for sharing your